there are moments in your career that don't feel important while they're happening. No promotion, no award, no dramatic confrontation, just an ordinary evening that quietly changes the way you see leadership forever. Today, I want to tell you about one of those moments. This happened earlier in my career. I happened to be a sales manager at the time, and I was I was new. I was trying to kind of find my place with the people I worked with, and many of these people I had worked with in more equal roles, and then all of a sudden I got promoted to become the sales manager. Um, we all got along personally very well. Um, Became lifelong friends. We're still friends on Facebook, even though we're kind of scattered across the country. But this was just something that naturally happens in a work environment where uh, we're all friends in the beginning, and then we eventually some get promoted, some remain in the same roles, whatever. Uh, but overall, you still generally feel good working with these people, and they become friends, and you care about them. And you look at this as relationships are not something, and I want to preface this correctly, that I'm not saying that we shouldn't have relationships in the workplace, but I'm kind of go into something a little more deep in this topic. So as I look back, I realized I hadn't really been just looking for camaraderie. I was looking for a connection. I still needed these people in my life that were important to me, and they become good friends. Um, but also, I was kind of going through a tough time in my life. I was at a potential spot of a possible divorce, and things weren't going well. And again, those kinds of things happen too, and you tend to reach out to your old friends. But one night I got invited to a party, and it was just a normal party. Just things that had happened before. You end up going to somebody's house, and a lot of people that you work with are there, and you sit around a fire and have a beer, whatever. Uh, Completely normal setting. Things were just fine. Um, Again, the party started that night was just a basic party, and nothing out of the ordinary. Um, then over the time of the night, things started to change, and this became a bigger party, and it became people that I didn't know. It became maybe some things that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable because it wasn't that safe setting that you were in. But anyway, this atmosphere changed, and it changed some things within me. And I remember at the time I walked outside by myself, and I was just thinking, what am I doing here? And at this time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't judging anyone. I'm not saying here that there were things going on at this party that were, you know, I didn't want to be around, but it was just a different feel. But I knew something was not right with inside me. And as I sat there, I was actually kind of off in a patio area by myself, and I remember thinking about, why am I here? What am I doing? And it kind of dawned on me that my role in work had changed, and now my role with these people are changing. But there I was standing alone. I had a realization that has stayed with me forever, and that's why I'm making this video. I just wasn't another person anymore. I wasn't part of the group. I was a leader of many of the people that were in this house at this party. And whether I wanted that responsibility or not, it was my position. My position carried influence. My position carried choices. Uh, my position had to make decisions. my present sent a message in this, and I know a lot may look at this right now and go, well, we need to enjoy time together. We need to have friends. We need that. Follow me a little bit longer here and you'll kind of get where I'm going. Um, but my standard changed, not not the rest of the people in the room. Because my job changed, my standard needed to change. Not because somebody told me to, not because HR handed me a policy, because I finally understood something about leadership and my role in leadership and how we need to work within this. And so, looking back here in kind of a transition point, our influence in our job doesn't change after the workday ends. Our influence is always there. That leadership role, that influence, that importance is always there. Uh, and sometimes those things that happen teach us things. They present something, but we simply grow into it. Things change. And at the time, I thought I was building relationship, but looking back, I was actually blurring the boundaries of effective leadership. So now let's talk a little bit about perception and reality, and this is kind of what starts to tie things together. Um, so as this lesson has stayed with me, there's other pieces of the puzzle kind of came together over my career. Um, but as I in my role, I travel a lot of locations. I work with a lot of people, and in that scenario, you get snapshots. You go in a location and you see things, and maybe you go in a location and every time you go in there, you see this person behind the desk just it looks like they're just working away. But then next to him, you see another person. It's kind of laid back and doesn't look like they're too involved. And your perception when you quickly look at that is the one with his head down in the computer and really looking intent probably is the one that's working the hardest, and the other one that's relaxed is not. That's the perception. But maybe the reality is that one with his head down in the desk on his computer, maybe he's playing a game. Maybe he's playing solitaire. Maybe something else is happening. Maybe the other one that looks relaxed is actually the efficient one and is getting their job done, and they're not all stressed and they do well at it. So think about this perception. Perception is not always reality, but perception within people matter. That perception leads to a lot of things. So here's where this leadership connection kind of comes in with the perception. People are always watching the leaders, whether you're the location manager, sales manager, whatever your role is. People are always watching you. They're noticing who gets your time. They're noticing, who gets second chances. They're noticing the promises you make. They notice how you act with people. They notice that you talk to so and so a lot more than you talk to other people. Uh, all of these perceptions matter because that's what goes in people's mind. Now, are they reality? Maybe not. But again, you got to think about what are other people perceiving. So, in these professional boundaries, these are often misunderstood. You know, uh, Maybe that one person that you're talking to all the time is that key person that is doing so much work, and that other person doesn't know that. That other person maybe think about back to my party scenario. If I'm hanging out with that person on a personal level, that just changed the perception, didn't it? So as you start looking at this, we need to, as we're in a leadership role, we need to set these guardrails that protect the trust amongst the other people. So look at these words: fairness, credibility, coaching, accountability. These are all things that perception, if taken the wrong way, can completely get crushed. And trust is that big word, that we have to look at what we do when we're working with people, and where does that trust come in? Well, again, think about if you've got personal relationships with people in the workforce, and they are at an equal to other people in the workforce, and you tend to spend more time, talk to them more, they get benefits, whatever. There's a favoritism that happens there, and that turns off other people. So you have to think about, you can have lifelong friends in work. I have lifelong friends in work, but there's that friendship, and then you have to separate your duty as a leader. It's not about, ending friendships or being distant or not caring, all those things. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be those guardrails that I'm talking about. But sometimes the most caring thing a leader can do is preserve enough professional distance to make difficult decisions fairly. There's where my guardrails I'm talking about. Make that to a point where you really can look at, how are people perceiving what they're seeing from me? That night at the party, I could see that clearly. I could see that here I am with one group of people and our great friends. People are going to hear about this. People are going to know that I was there with this party. And if this goes on and on and on, if there's that little subgroup that we're all friends with, everybody feels there's preferential treatment. Now, outside of me, I'm not going to talk about me now, but I have seen this in the workforce with a lot of other people. They have their clique. People call it a clique, right? Of people that they work with. Maybe they go camping a lot. Maybe whatever their activity is. Maybe it's traveling. You know, you look at that again. That's okay to have, as long as there's not some preferential treatment or some things that are happening, with those people. So look back, I don't regret caring for my team. Again, it was a point, and there's still people that I look to today. I don't regret in investing in relationships. You know, I don't regret any of this. It's just a learning point that I feel like I want to express today, that 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 leadership carries some responsibility, and we have to just look at that. Perception is the easiest way. Um, but when people look at you for direction, your decisions no longer can be a personal decision. They need to be a leadership decision. So think about, you're a leader. You got 6 people in your group, and you got 2 of them that are, they're your best buddies. You hang out, you go to the bar, you go to games, you do whatever together. Maybe even family things together. Go on trips. Well, what if one of those 2 that you're great friends with is the lowest performer on the team? How are you going to deal with that? Because if you don't deal with that, what are the other 4 of the 6 thinking about? They're thinking about, oh, he doesn't have to do this. He's a poor performer, and it doesn't matter to him because he's best friends with the boss, right? See that perception? See how that looks? There has to be some guardrails in how this works. And so I'm going to leave you with this question that I've asked myself over time. Does your relationship strengthen your ability to lead, or does it sometimes make leadership difficult? So think about that. If you were in that situation that I just described, is your situation going to make your job easier or harder? Very simple. Look at it that way. Because I can tell you that being in those situations where you have a friend and you're not doing anything with it, that's a problem. Now, let's reverse the role and look at it one other way. If you're truly a leader and you're truly being a friend to that person that's not performing, Where's the accountability and responsibility come in? As a leader, your responsibility is to bring that up to that person, whether they're a friend or not. And that's where accountability comes in, is making sure that you're holding people accountable to do their job. There's where the guardrails come in, and where if you're doing those things, you're standing up to what the role requires, whether they're friends or not. So if this story resonates with you, please subscribe to the Genuine Mentor Moments. Love feedback on these kinds of things, to hear other people's points of view. So anyway, enjoy and elevate the human experience.